All right, everybody, welcome back to week 8 of the Functional Effect group coaching call. As always, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm lucky enough to have my co host with me here again tonight. So, thank you again to the awesome Dr. Tyler being here with us. Because tonight we're going to talk about capacity. I think it's something, we've been kind of paving the way towards this talk tonight because over the past 7 weeks, we've been unpacking awareness. We've been unpacking systems and emotional regulation tools and ways to return yourself to baseline when things take a left turn. But there's a major factor that determines whether those tools feel sustainable or whether they start to feel overwhelming. And that is your capacity. Everybody goes through different seasons of life, and not every season is meant for maximum output. I think that we can both.
Yeah, you can't be going 110 miles down the freeway for a whole year. You got to stop. You got to slow down. You got to. There's seasons of that. So otherwise, it's inevitable. You're gonna break down.
And one of the biggest things that high achievers have a tendency to do, or people that qualify themselves in the type A perfectionist category, is that they have a tendency to give 110% at all times, even when they maybe only have 50% or 60% to give. And that is where burnout happens. So, tonight we're going to be talking about how to recognize what season you're actually in, how to adjust your expectations to that season, and how to anchor your habits into that season so that you feel supported during that time in your life instead of feeling like you are exhausting yourself with your own expectations. So let's go ahead and proceed. So let's talk first about the myth of constant high performance, because I do think that our culture, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but our culture has a tendency to glorify the give it all 100% in
Yeah,
mentality.
it's the hustle culture and just being. If you're not in the pain, you're not in the gain. But that's not true.
It's real life operates in cycles. And we were talking about this earlier, that Tony Robbins, like we you know how when your TV comes on and it
We have a
automatically.
Samsung TV,
Okay.
and so it, like automatically comes on, and you can choose these like free networks. It's just like whatever on Samsung, so it's on there. And I didn't even know this existed. And then one day, we were just going through because we whatever popped on, we're like, I don't want to have that to come on with the kids.
It was previously popped onto the Fear
Like the
Network.
Fear Network, I'm like, I think we can skip that. And then we went to the Tony Robbins Network. So if anything, it just gets turned on. We'll just have like Tony Robbins talking in our house, which has been really interesting.
And it just so happened that he was giving his infamous talk about seasons, because Tony Robbins infamously talks about how we all are built for different seasons. And when, winter is the season of rest,
It's resting, but it's also you're preparing. You're figuring things out for the spring.
and spring, just like with farming, is the season of planting. So summer is the season of waiting, and then fall is the season of harvest. And Rachel and I, my sister who's in the room right now, we grew up on a grain farm. We lived that life cycle for all of our childhood. We watched the planting season, the harvest season. We watched our dad go out into the fields, and we saw that in action. And we saw the how farmers lived that lifestyle throughout the year, especially those farmers who really were dedicated to only farming, unlike our father, who also worked a whole nother job and had a whole nother livelihood that he did in addition to farming. But we would see those farmers go through a period of rest during the winter. And even our dad, who worked construction in the winter, that also shut down. And he would have a period of almost like solstice. When in today's culture, when do we ever get the chance to take our foot off the gas? We don't ever really have an
No,
opportunity to do that,
no.
nor does our culture find it to be acceptable to do so.
Because people are just like, oh, you're not going at full speed, you're lazy. And that's just not true at all.
So the question is, when we talk about the winter season, the spring season, the summer season, and the fall season, it doesn't necessarily align with the circadian rhythm of the actual seasons of the year as to what season you are in. So it might be winter outside still, but you might personally be in spring already, and you might be needing to plant seeds for what you're trying to harvest. So you might also be in a season of winter where you might be needing to turn the volume knob down, like a few years ago, what I experienced with the burnout that I went through after the birth of my second son. And I know Rachel talks about this very openly, the burnout that she experienced. Those seasons became a winter season for both of us, where we had to turn the volume knob down in order to bring our body back to a baseline. And then for some of you, it might be a season of waiting. You might be in that summer season where you need to just keep plugging along, doing exactly what you're doing and waiting for the harvest to come. So I ask all of you this: where are you at? Are you in a growth season where you are trying to grow those crops, nurture the soil? Are you in a maintenance season where you're trying to just keep things going at status quo? Are you in a survival season where your ground is droughted and your crops have died and your land needs tending, but you're not able to tend to it because you're short on supplies? Are you in a recovery season where you're bringing the soil back to life? You might be somewhere in between those distinct seasons that we spelled out for you. But whatever season you are finding yourself to be in, it's understanding where you're at that's the key. Many people have a denial of what season they're in.
Yeah. So like the lower capacity at times doesn't mean a lower commitment towards what you're trying to accomplish.
Correct.
There is a ebb and flow, and it is being with what I do, like there's wins. I get wins, and it's like, oh, you feel so good and you're emotional. But as much as you get those wins, you know there's going to be lows too. You're going to have like right around the corner is going to be this low. So you have to be aware of that.
The ebb and the flow is part of life, right? So recognizing the season you're in is going to allow you to make the adjustments to what you're doing and to adjust your expectations of yourselves. Like you said, a lower capacity doesn't mean a lower commitment. It just means adjusting the expectations of what you're actually able to realistically commit to showing up for.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as with every call that we walk you guys through, there is a framework that we want you to use to assess this capacity. And it starts out with understanding and assessing where you're realistically at. And we're going to use an energy scale of 1 to 10. 1 being you've got nothing in the tank, and 10 being you're at full capacity. Where would you rate yourself right now? So you don't have to put this in the chat. You could put this in the chat if you want to, but I want you to self-assess from a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being nothing and 10 being a full tank. Where are you at right now today? Based on that answer, that is going to tell you everything you need to know. And based on that answer, you're also going to be able to do the next step of that framework, which is make adjustments. So if you are finding that you are rating yourself at a 5, that you're in the middle of the road, that you're finding yourself in that season where your capacity is not great, it's not horrible, it's kind of in the middle. What goals that you currently have need to flex to meet that season? If you have a big, hairy, audacious goal that you're trying to meet and your energy level is not at a 10, how do you need to adjust that goal to meet the season that you're in? Intensity versus consistency is the important factor here. You do not have to be intense to be consistent, but you cannot be consistent if you are too intense.
Mm-hmm. Consistency wins. People who do the same thing can show up every day Even if it's just like for 5 minutes and get it, it's going to be far better than doing nothing or trying to push really, really hard, eventually burning out. So, I, I've seen people be like we're fitness people. So, when someone is consistent 4 days a week and it's not sexy and it's just they're consistent, they show up and they're because they built what we talked about on the path. They built a system that they're because you don't rise to the level of your motivation, you fall to your systems, your level of your
And
systems.
we talked
That's
about
what
in
always
one of our
happens,
last
right?
calls.
That's what always happens. So this kind of just goes back to that.
And so when you find yourself in that place where your capacity is underwhelming in comparison to the responsibilities that you have on your list, you make the adjustments and then anchor yourself to what I like to consider the minimum effective dose. I talk about this a lot with a lot of different factors with my coaching clients. What is your minimum effective dose for your healthy habits for this current season that you're in? And there is no right answer to this. But I encourage you to try to anchor at least 2 to 3 main habits or main behaviors that help you feel grounded. So it could be something like daily walks. It could be morning sunlight exposure, which is a big one for regulating your circadian rhythm and getting your melatonin and cortisol production uh, regulated. Because anybody who's telling you that you need to eliminate cortisol, everyone who's listening to these fitness influencers on social media, you need cortisol to survive.
You do. It's kind of important.
You need it to breathe. But what happens to most people that are under high stress for too long is that their cortisol curve flips. And when we should have a peak cortisol, it happens at the opposite time of the day, like right now. And for those of you who are having that wired but tired feeling in the evenings, I'm talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
So back to those 2 to 3 anchor habits. Daily walks, hitting your protein goal. Can I tell you how important hitting your protein goal is for helping keep a calm nervous system?
Yeah, it's probably one of these.
What we are seeing over the last few days, and the reason that I stared directly at my husband is because we have been tracking his food over the last few days. And because he's getting ready for a big race, and we had this sneaking suspicion that he might be under fueling because he's been really busy and because his schedule has changed some. So we're like, you know what? Go ahead and go back and let's start logging again and let's see where you're at. And he started very diligently hitting his protein targets over these last now what, 4 or 5 days?
Yeah, well, I've been hitting my protein targets, my carbs. I've really increased a lot. I've decreased my fat intake.
But the point is, he's hitting his nutrient requirements.
Yeah, and it makes a huge. Now I'm a Whoop user, so I can see how my HRV and my resting heart rate and all these things.
So all measures of recovery.
These my habits through the day and how that affects my overall recovery performance. And since I started tracking and hitting my goals, I have been in like recovering at 90% or better every single time, no matter how hard I train. So,
and he wasn't recovering that well before.
And I wasn't recovering that well. And I ran a little over 16 miles on Saturday, recovered well. And I had a really tough workout on Tuesday, recovered that.
So, point B is that simple habits like making sure that you're hitting your nutrition requirements can actually be a game changer in helping your body manage the season that you're in. Hitting your water intake is another big one, another low, what we would consider the low hanging fruit. And then making sure that you have a standard wind down bedtime routine. It does not need to be the 47-step routine of the wellness influencers that you see on Instagram. It just needs to be a regular, consistent bedtime and a regular, consistent routine that your body becomes adjusted and accustomed to. Your body does much better and sleeps much more restfully when you have a routine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, what for you might those 2 to 3 anchor behaviors be when you are going through a season that is having your capacity underwhelm your capacity to a point where you need to pare things down? What does it look like for you? Think about that. There's no right answer to this, but those low hanging fruit, your hydration, your nutrition, your sleep, they're all vital. Movement, walking is hands down the number one way to physically modulate stress from the human body because it signals to your body that you are safe. So, what are those 2 to 3 habits for you? If you don't already know those, that's something that I consider being one of those non negotiables in terms of identifying your core values when it comes to health and wellness. What is it going to look like at the end of the day? If you can't do anything else for yourself, what are going to be the 2 to 3 things that you do that are non negotiables? For you, what are those things?
My non-negotiables?
Yeah.
Every day?
Yeah.
Okay. So, probably my non-negotiables. I exercise in some way every day. Sometimes it's really light and sometimes it's really intense. Uh, as of late, hitting my macro targets has really been important. Um, I I need to have like I'm a physical touch guy, so like I need to have some physical touch with like my family, so like with my wife, cuddle my kids. Those are like really important to me. I hope that helps regulate my nervous system also. And then probably I like to have at least minimally 15 minutes to talk with Sarah as well.
So he's an overachiever. He's got 4 non negotiables.
Yeah, those are probably it.
My 2 big ones are hydration, making sure that I have a 64-ounce water bottle that I fill up and I make sure that I get at least 2 of those in a day. And then my other one is my bedtime routine. I'm a stickler for getting in bed pretty much right after the kids go to bed.
You also love baths.
And I love baths.
Like loves baths.
I do. I love a good hot soak.
You got a nice big tub and well, watch out. This is how I know I'm getting old. We got a tankless water heater. So pretty exciting stuff in our house. But now unlimited hot water. It's so great. But now look at bath time, easy, anytime, hot water, whole time.
So to bring this conversation full circle, because we want to keep this short and sweet for you guys, I want you to reflect on what season are you in right now? Are you in your winter season? Are you in your season of rest? Are you in your spring season where you're planting? Are you in your summer season of waiting, or are you in your fall season of harvest? Are you expecting 100% of yourself right now on a 60% full gas tank? That's the biggest question that I want to encourage you to sit with tonight. Because for many of you that are watching this, whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching this on the replay, asking yourself to perform at an unrealistic capacity when you are going through a season where you need to turn the volume down is denying your very biology.
Yeah. So give examples. Some people don't always have the ability to like they have to perform high, but they don't feel they don't want to, right? And because maybe this is a good example. Tax season's coming around the corner, so you have accountants. They're getting hammered right now. They're so busy and they're working 12, 16-hour days. And it's tough. It's hard, but they probably prepare for it to agree because they know that's the way it's going to be. But what are they doing every day to make sure they're taking care of themselves so that they can do their job well? So I think there's preparation in that also.
And this would be a good example of this season. Right now would be a season for them that those 1 or 2 or 3 anchor habits would be clutch because that might be all they can do.
Yeah.
But then after tax season's over, they get to go back to having a more expansive capacity and they can filter things back in. I don't expect for everybody always to be able to operate at 100% capacity, and you should not expect yourself to operate at 100% either. So being able to adjust, adapt, and anchor to the habits that are going to serve you best in those times when your capacity is very small is why we're here tonight. So the goal is not constant acceleration, it's long-term resilience. So I want you guys to take this time after we get off this call to assess your capacity, adjust your expectations accordingly, and anchor into the behaviors and habits that support you best. That's how progress compounds over time. So we will meet again next week at the same time. But as always, I want to open the floor for Q&A at the end of the call. Whether or not it is related to the subject matter of tonight's call, we want to open the floor for all health and wellness questions. So if anybody has anything, we're going to go ahead and open the microphones and you guys can ask away.
Okay, I think I'll go ahead and jump in if that's all right. This is
Yeah,
Kim.
absolutely. Kim, go ahead.
We had talked a little bit at the beginning of the call. I've been having a tough start of the year. Flu at Christmas time and then moved into a sinus infection in January and February. And then I thought I was coming out of it and then got hit with a bad cough a couple nights ago. So I was just telling everybody that I'm frustrated because I feel like I'm doing what I can, and just was kind of yelling for help. What am I missing? What can I do to just move beyond this?
Yeah. So like we were saying, oftentimes when we're having like a lingering something or other, that it's really we need to look at better supporting our own terrain and better supporting our body. And it kind of goes right in line with the talk that we're tonight of
Hmm.
understanding what season you're in. And right now you're in a season of your body needing more support, more
Okay.
consistent support. And it's telling you that through the way your immune system is responding. So I think this is actually a really good time to bring in Rachel to talk, and we will have this discussion. We'll open up the microphones and talk about all the different ways that we can, as human beings, support our terrain with our habits, with our nutrition. And we'll unpack some of the things that we can all be doing to make sure that we're better supporting our immune systems and our bodies during this time of the year, especially when these lingering viruses can really be a bugger.
Okay,
So
sounds
Rachel, you
good.
want to hop in with us?
Sure. Can everybody hear me?
Amazing. So, for those of you who do not know Rachel, Rachel is actually my sister, and she is an incredible nurse practitioner with close to, are you at 2 decades now of experience or close to 2 decades now?
Close, 18
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, she's
Mm.
inching in on 2 decades of experience, and she is a plethora, a wealth of knowledge. And she's also been on the receiving end of our style of care. So she has both ends of the spectrum of knowledge when it comes to health and wellness, which is what I love about my sister. Is that she sees it from both ends.
Yeah, everything from emergency room to wellness care. She kind of has it covered.
So when you see people coming into the clinic with these lingering viral loads or these lingering issues or reoccurring issues, how would you suggest that someone better support themselves through this kind of a season?
Right. So, Kim, like we just talked about, first and foremost, know that you are not alone.
Okay.
Every single winter we see it, and especially this winter, I just got back from an island out in Alaska, and it's the same story. It's everybody, the viruses that lead into the persistent cough that can last anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks, is
Mm.
annoying and as awful as that sounds. But you are definitely not alone. So, a lot of the times when these viruses hit our systems, your poor immune system has just taken a dip. And so trying to bounce back from that when you keep getting hit from different angles, like you said, you had the flu and then you felt like you had a sinusitis, et cetera, et cetera. It's not uncommon. So, as simple as these interventions may sound, it's really bringing it back to the basics, and Sarah and Tyler can jump in at any time. So every single patient, no matter what it is that they are going through, whether it be a pneumonia or they've just had surgery, the foundation principles are so utterly important for getting your body to be able to even think about healing. So sleep. Sleep,
Okay.
sleep, sleep, and sleep. I cannot preach
Yep.
sleep, how important your sleep is. Every single time I've gotten insanely sick in my life is when I was insanely sleep deprived. Ideally 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night for everybody. For women, I think Sarah, you said it's closer to 9 for women.
The newest data for women is showing that women's biological minimum is 9
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
versus and men's biological minimum is 7. So that's kind of how they settled on the 8 for everybody.
Oh,
So because women are by nature and by design less stress resilient creatures, so we need deeper recovery. We
right.
need more intentional and deeper recovery, and it's the way we're designed. So it's not, it doesn't make us weaker, it doesn't make us less awesome, it just means we need more sleep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And And think about it, like when you're asleep, that is the time for your body to do all of its repairs. So if you're getting broken, fragmented sleep, your body's not even getting that time to do what it needs to do.
Correct.
Hydration, your water intake is so insanely important. And then nutrition, eating the foods that are going to actually help your body heal during this time. And Sarah, I will be fully transparent. She is much more knowledgeable about the nutrition
I'm going to hop
aspect.
in here and I'm going to touch
Yes.
on the four big ones. So when we look at food and we talk about the four big areas that when you are under the weather, not feeling well, there's four big areas that I'm going to look at making sure are adequate with your food intake. Your first is going to be your vitamin D intake. And that's not just supplementation, but that's also dietary vitamin D. So I'm looking for 600 IUs of dietary vitamin D a day. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but 600 IUs from food is hard to get.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
if you are somebody who can do dairy, enriched dairy is a great way to get in dietary vitamin D. If not a dairy consumer, then one of your better ways is going to be through mushrooms. There is a variety of ways to get in dietary vitamin D, but taking supplemental vitamin D on top of that is always not a bad idea, especially during the winter months when we're not getting good sunlight exposure, especially for people that are in sunlight deprived areas like Alaska and like the Midwest. We have a tendency to not retain or have good vitamin D storage in the winter, which can definitely impact your immune system. We're going to be looking at your dietary magnesium intake. So I
Okay.
want my clients to be getting in a minimum of about 320 milligrams of magnesium a day dietarily. So through the food you're eating. And ideally for women in the perimenopausal age range, what we're finding in the functional world, they're finding that upwards of between 600 and 800 total milligrams of magnesium per day is necessary for normal function during that perimenopausal menopausal window because of the stress on the body and how quickly our body can burn through magnesium during that time in life. So there is a lot to be said about making sure those two areas are correct, as well as looking at your your omega-3 intake and making sure that you're taking in somewhere in the ballpark of 3 to 6 grams of omega-3s a day. Now, that can be in combination of food and supplementation. So, if you are not a fish eater, if you are not somebody who consumes chia or flax, you can get your omega-3s in through cod liver oil supplementation, through krill oil supplementation. There are other ways to get it in, but 3 to 6 grams of omega-3s a day is an adequate amount to support the immune system, and making sure that you're getting in adequate fiber. And I know that you're like, oh, fiber, immune system. Well, that fiber is attributing to your microbiome health. So the more diversity and better fiber sources we can give your microbiome, the healthier your gut, the healthier your immune system. Because where does most of your immune system lie? In your digestive tract. So, with all of that in mind, if you utilize a logging app like Chronometer has a wonderful feature that you can not only see your macros, so your protein, your fats, your carbohydrates, but if you look in the underneath the hood, you can also see all of the micronutrients that you're consuming for the day. And those four elements that I just talked about will all be listed within Chronometer. There is a free version of the Chronometer app available for those of you who are unfamiliar with Chronometer. It's a really great food logging app. And if you are a client of Functional Effect, we actually have a professional database that we add you into that we can see all of your logging in real time. And you don't ever have to send us a report, and we can actually see everything that you're logging and give you feedback. So that's one of the nice things about having Chronometer is that if you ever start your own account and then you come on with us as a client, we can just pull your information right into our database and we can sync everything up and see everything that you've been doing. So that would be the four areas with your food that I would be paying the most attention to. And when it comes to microbiome diversity and variety with fruits and veggies, and getting in all of those different types of fiber. This is a side note, but in a perfect world, between your herbs, your spices, your fruits, your vegetables, and if you're somebody who is consuming grains, so any of the plant matter that you're consuming, in a perfect world, you would be getting in 30 different items a week between your herbs and spices and all of the different plant matter that you consume. And that is the amount of microbiome diversity that your body wants to have. And that is when you will be at the best gut health, is when you can achieve that kind of diversity in your diet. And the better your gut health, the better your immune system, and the better your body can do its own job. So hopefully this gives you some ammunition to start digging in a little deeper to where you might be falling short. But just by what we've gone over, Kim, do you have any inclination as to where you could hone in?
Well, I think I could definitely, what happens when you're feeling crummy, or for me personally, is like I'll have a good breakfast and and lunch will be, you just end up having like chicken noodle soup all the time.
Sure.
Like it's hard. I mean, and it tastes good and that's what you can get down. But I think after listening to you guys, I just need to kind of remind myself that go that extra effort and get I haven't had a vegetable unless it's been in soup in, in several days.
I
So
understand that. And that's where things like the green, even a greens powder, like if you're like, I can't chew, something
yes.
like a greens powder and AG1, the paleo greens, where you can
Mhm.
bump up your nutrient. Is it perfect? No. But
No,
is
but
it better than getting no greens in? Yes. So
right.
that's where you can strategically utilize things like that if you don't
Mhm.
want to chew, because I totally understand that. Like the last thing you want to do when you feel sick is eat a salad.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And
yes.
but you're right. As I come out of this, that needs to be the first thing I'm starting to think about,
Well, and even like the on the soup note, like maybe it's loading, like doing a nice fully loaded veggie stew that has
Yeah.
all the good things in it. That's not just a simple chicken noodle, right?
Yeah. Great
And
idea.
loading that soup, because a good bone broth, it's rich in glycine that helps coat the gut. It's rich in protein. You get a lot of good veggies in there. Let those sit and soak and get nice and soft. You don't have to
Perfect.
chew. I mean, all it's like a nice soup or a stew during
Hmm.
sickness is actually some of the best foods that you can eat. It's making them well-rounded enough and making them robust enough to support your health. That's
Yeah.
all. So you can
Yeah.
put anything in a soup or a stew.
Yeah. No,
Just load her up.
it all makes sense and it's good, because
Of
the
course.
low hanging fruit I'm getting. I am making sure I'm at least, well, I've got the dog, but walking, I'm getting
That's
outside
good.
and
Oh,
I'm
that's
getting
good.
the water. But you're right. I got to get the other stuff going. Yeah,
And you think about it like this, your body's trying to heal. Do you think that that requires more energy or less?
probably more.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this is perfect timing. You end up just kind of
Nothing happens by coincidence, Kim.
Yeah.
uh,
And
You're
another
here for a
simple
reason tonight.
yeah, I think so.
Another simple thing that people overlook, especially in the Midwest where it's been super dry, is if you've got that dry, nagging cough, is getting a humidifier in your home, that
Yes.
dry, raspiness feeling. That's a really common culprit as well. And things that can soothe your throat at night, drink some tea with some honey in it.
Okay.
That's really, really good one. So, obviously I'm thinking all of the non-pharmaceuticals, but I do want to
Right.
highlight if you have taken an antibiotic at any point during this course, your gut is going to be a little bit upset. So,
Hmm.
picking up some of those other things to help heal your stomach are going to prove beneficial afterwards. That's anybody, antibiotics for any reason. They work and we use them for a reason, but they are not without risk in and of themselves. So,
Yeah. And
So
there really should be, in my personal opinion, when a provider hands out antibiotics, there also needs to be a what to do after your antibiotics are over pamphlet. And
mhm.
and but that's why I exist. So on that note, we're actually going to be starting the next round of Balance to Breakthrough at the beginning of April. So, right after spring break is over, April 6th is going to be the kickoff for the next round of B2B.
okay.
Anne Marie is going to be heading it up again like she did last spring. I am going to be along to guest host and guest star. Um, and Rachel will be here to guest host, and we will all be along for the ride, but we are going to be kicking that off in about a month. So that might be really good timing to do a bit of a gut reset. So just
Okay.
keep that in mind if you don't want to do it alone. But
All
because
right.
we'll be here to cheer you on along the way. But I think that this, if you need to talk any more about this offline, we'll happily unpack this with you more. But I think that you have some good ammunition to start making a few strategic changes.
I think so too. I totally agree.
Awesome.
Yes.
All
Thank you
right,
guys so
gang.
much. Appreciate
Oh,
it.
it's a pleasure. And Rachel, thank you so much for hopping
Of
on
course.
Thanks,
tonight.
Rachel.
Everybody, it is always a pleasure to be here with you all. We will see you again here next week, same time, same station, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time every Thursday night. And just remember, you deserve to feel your best. See you next time.
Okay, thanks. Good night.
Good night.